So as I was saying before, I was rudely interrupted by the camera cutting out yet again. These things, I'll throw a link in the description actually to the first video. These interests that I have, they don't define me as a person, they're just literally just interests that I have. And this is what really aggs me about these people that are giving it the larger, like, oh yeah, well I have all these things that are separate to borderline personality disorder. It's like, yeah, but you also have the fuckery that goes on with your disorder, and the fact that you don't want to be held accountable for your behaviours, the way you treat people, the way you always seem to have a get out of jail free card because, oh, I've got this disorder. It's like, no, you have the only disorder that a lot of these people have. And look, it is unfortunate because they take these traits into their older ages, their older years, and look, a lot of the time they end up with no one around them because no one wants to put up with their bullshit, and the ones that they do only really see one side of them. You know, they won't spend a great deal of time with them because as soon as the other person starts realising that, well, they're not as legit as what, you know, they make themselves out to be. You know, and I've known plenty of people like this. I've met them in real life. I've dated some of them. I've been in relationship with them, whether it's, you know, work or whatever. And it's always the same thing. And this is why they end up walking away with a real bitter taste in their mouth towards me, is because I will call them out on their bullshit every step of the way. That's what it comes down to. Do I recommend doing shit like that? No, probably not, if I'm honest, because ultimately it always leads to the same old shit, in whereas you're going to get a smear campaign run against you. People are going to be chatting shit behind your back, and you know they're going to try and ruin your social groups and everything. That, and these will be people that you were hanging out with for years, people that know who the fuck you are, what you're about, and actually respected you. And yet, and again, maybe it's, you know, for the people that do go with the bullshit of the other person, it's like, well, for starters, I suppose it proves who they are. They would rather listen to someone else and just go with it rather than get their own information, find out for themselves. But then that means hard work and effort, and like, you know, if they happen to like the other person a bit more because, say like someone with me, I will say it how it is. That offends a lot of people, right? Me being me offends a lot of people, right? Because, you know, it's not that, sometimes I'm horrible about it. It depends. It depends on the person who I'm talking to and what our relationship is. Some people I won't be quite so blunt, you know. I'll say horrible because that is sometimes how I get defined. It's like, oh, not that I'm a bad person. It's just I'm somewhat tactless, maybe. Or maybe people just don't like being told and they define me as such, as being horrible or tactless or really blunt or really straight up. But I'm also really glad to say that the majority of people in my life in that, and I'd like to think it's the same for a lot of you guys, my viewers as well, they respect you for who you are and the fact that you do say it how it is, and if you are wrong about something, is that you are open to correction. That excludes any of this stuff where people will be like, oh yeah, but I've got this wrong with me. It's like, nah, you ain't got that wrong with you. What you've got is unwilling to grow up and be an adult. That's what it comes down to a lot of the time. Lazy. But they don't want to hear that, because it's much easier to just be diagnosed with something that, you know, something that is a legitimate disorder a lot of the time. It is a legitimate disorder. But if you can use that disorder to just get away with being lazy and just being an asshole to everyone else and getting away with it because, oh, I've got this wrong with me, you've got to understand that. Oh, fuck off. No. And like I say, the reason that I said initially in the sort of first part of this video why I think a lot of women have borderline personality compared to a lot of guys. Now look, guys have got their own fucking issues going on, and it is purely to do with how society has grown to be today in the way that we see things. Again, this is also subjective to the individual. I am relatively open-minded. That said, I'm also blatantly aware of the fuckery people will try and do in order to get away with just being an arsehole, basically, a lot of the time. But again, when when we see the society that we've had, and how I relate a lot of women to being having potential for having borderline personality disorder, or sometimes just why they'd use it, is because that they a lot of the time get given a green card for a lot of shitty behaviour that guys don't. We've always sort of pointed out the injustices between a man and a woman committing the same crime, but the man will get a longer sentence or a harsher sentence, or the woman gets let off early a lot of the time. But there's all sorts of madness going on with that sort of thing as well. People, guys, a lot of the time do get let off for stuff that they shouldn't be let off with early. They should actually, what I mean? I'm talking about atrocities here. I'm talking about the destruction of other lives, and not necessarily the ending of other lives, just the psychological damage that some of these people do to others. But in a sort of nutshell, like I say, when you've got a society that's pampered to one group of people rather than another, then they are eventually going to grow up to be really narcissistic, and in that, in not necessarily in a personality disordered, but they're going to grow up with problems. This is why I talk about the things that I talk about, on the channel. That sort of, and look, it's not to say that every single mother is going to raise a bad child, or that they're not capable of raising a child correctly. That being said, it's like, if you honestly think that a woman can raise a boy to be a man, you're sorely mistaken. And this is a problem that our society has had for absolute decades. I mean, look, just the usual quick fact. Alright, so 80% of UK male inmates, I think it's about 80% UK male inmates, right? This is something that I say regularly because I'm trying to get people to switch their brains on and get this link, and maybe think, oh, hang on, there's a problem here. The one that we usually hear, right, is that 75 to 80% of UK male inmates come from broken homes. The first one we usually hear is, well, they're men, they're toxic. Men are just bad. But then when you look at the other statistic of 80% of mothers win custody of the child. All right, is there a correlation there? And that's, look, not to say that literally every single mother out there is going to raise a criminal. I'm not saying that. There's a problem there that people don't want to address, and when you do talk about it, you're the bad person for talking about it. And again, like I've always said, that's not to say that every single man out there is going to make a great parent. They're not going to make a great dad. That's a part of life as well. Again, it comes down to their upbringing, their social settings, social, economical setting as well. All of this plays a part. But a lot of the time people don't want to talk about that. Because for one group in particular, it's just like, oh, well, men are bad. Men are bad, that's it. They need, they just need to be punished. And, women never do anything bad. And yeah, they do. They just don't want to be called out on it. But yeah, and again, when you've got things like BPD running around doing its thing, or the people with BPD running around doing their thing, you can't blame me. I'm not accountable. It's like, well, if you want to be treated like a child, then maybe we should do exactly that. They won't like it. As soon as they realise that their voice doesn't mean anything, because they can't be taken seriously, because they're not going to act like an adult, they're going to get the and they do. They do get the But they will still go back to that same of, oh, well, I've got this. No, you've got immaturity and lack of responsibility and accountability for your actions, and you don't like being called out on it. But that's the truth. That's, in my opinion, that is more closer to the truth about borderline personality disorder than anything else. And it's like they talk about medications and shit like that. It's like, it's not the you don't need medication. You just need to be told about yourself. You need discipline. You need to discipline yourself more than anything, in how you conduct yourself with your social settings and the people around you, and how you treat them. A lot of them just don't want to know. because they've got it easy just saying, oh, I've got this wrong with me. So anyway, I'm going around on circles on that one. So if you guys have got any thoughts, comments or opinions, feel free to jot them down as always. I wasn't going to let today fuck me over, so this is a two-part video. So I'll put a link in the description to each video so you know which one's one, and this will be part 2 obviously. So anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying your weekend, and until the next one, stay cool, stay free, peace out.